How old was he when all this was happening?
He had just really turned 70. That was in January of 1999. So he kept him on the prescription for a couple of years, and he just continued to go downhill. So I took him, I got him in the VA, because he was a veteran, and took him up to Indianapolis. He saw 4 different neurologists, and they all said the same thing, that he had Alzheimer's, and it was getting in an advanced stage. Still, only 1 prescription. That was Aricept. I kept him on Aricept, and all they kept doing was test his EKGs or his heart, or just to do something to make me feel like they were trying to help.
You're doing something right.
But nothing helped. So it was 4 years, and he was getting worse, to the point that the lawyer was really pressuring me to put him in a nursing home. And as a Christian woman, I just couldn't bear to do that. I felt like God's promises were, by Jesus' stripes, you are healed. And so many promises for healing. And I would pray for Bill every time he'd say, honey, I don't feel good, or want to stay in bed. I'd say, honey, repeat after me. And what would we say? By Jesus' stripes, I am healed. Now, he didn't look like he was healed, and he didn't feel like he was healed. But that all the doctors, they'd given him different drugs, maybe to keep him restful, or depression and things like that, but he was still getting worse. So I'm praying, and I prayed, and I said, God, there's got to be an answer for your people. You always gave them hope. When some didn't have water, you gave them water. There were flies, they didn't have flies. You know, I said, God, you've got to treat us different. You've got to tell me what to do. And he said, nutrition. I said, oh God, I studied that in high school. I make balanced meals. And I went on to tell him about, meat and salad and potatoes and, He didn't say another word. I said, okay, I'll go to the library and get books, and I'll start reading on disease and nutrition.
Right.
It didn't take me long to find that Bill's favorite food that I was trying to fix every day to make him want to eat, because a lot of times he'd say, I'm not eating. But his favorite foods were starchy foods, and it was making his brain sluggish.
Right.
Well, I didn't know that till I started reading about disease and nutrition. So the more I read, I had to change our diet. And so pretty soon the starchy carbs became a treat, like once a month, maybe once a week for some. And he lost weight, and I lost weight. I could see he was feeling brighter. But he still was getting worse mentally. So I'm talking to God again. I said, God, that really has helped, but there's got to be something more. That you've got to tell me what to do. And he said, vitamins. I said, oh God, we're already taking 1 a day. We're taking Centrum Silver every day.
Right.
And it's very expensive. He didn't say another word. I said, okay, I'll start researching vitamins. And when I did, vitamins compared to disease, those Centrum Silver didn't have hardly anything
not near
in
enough.
there for
Right.
the brain. So that led me to supplements.
Right.
And when I got into supplements, I found it was omega-3s, and it was CoQ10, it was...
The things you needed wasn't really...
They weren't in any
Vitamin
of the vitamins.
D, yeah.
Vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B, they were all really important, but...
Woefully inept in the
but
Centrum.
The main thing that in this study of supplements led me to medical reports of studies done in Germany, Italy, Great Britain, I believe France, and even some in the United States, but those medical studies were not available.
Right.
I could
And not widely
find them.
reported on.
And not widely reported, yes.
Yeah.
But my job at the Pentagon for many years was a research analyst, so I knew how to research, and I was digging and digging when I found those medical reports of people with Alzheimer's, some already in the advanced stages where they didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
They couldn't dress themselves, couldn't feed themselves. It was so pitiful. And Bill wasn't at that stage. But to think they were recovering with 1
Right.
supplement, and that was phosphatidylserine.
Hmm.
I never heard of it, but the more
I've never
I read,
heard of that.
it sounds like it ought to be a real expensive pharmaceutical drug.
Yeah.
But it's a natural thing that your body in your brain
Right.
produces when you're born.
Hmm.
And when I was born, I only weighed 2 pounds
Wow.
at my grandmother's home, and the doctor said she's not going to live. And so I was not taken to the hospital. He told him not even to give me a name, so I didn't have a birth certificate for a whole week.
Wow.
I was too weak to cry and too weak to nurse. And when after a week came, my grandmother and mother said, "We need a birth certificate."
And we don't know what to call this girl.
How they fed you.
They fed me with an eyedropper
Oh, wow.
because I was too weak to nurse and too weak to cry. And I'm so thankful that he didn't put me in his little black bag. Mother said I fit in the palm of her hand.
Wow. That's a teeny tiny.
And, he could have put me in there and disposed of me since I didn't cry.
Yeah.
But God's hand was on my life.
He had a purpose in mind for you. And it's that young man right next to you.
And I didn't give up on him.
Well, and it sounds like the doctors gave up on him
Oh, they
because they
did.
wanted you to prepare him for nursing home.
Nursing home.
And it was
quick.
like that was his fate in life, even though he had not yet reached that advanced stage that
That's
you were talking
right.
about the others had. They just had given up on him.
They had.
But you and God didn't give up on him.
Didn't give up.
So,
And it's just something that comes on so gradual.
Yeah.
It's hard for you to recognize what's happening. That's what it was with me. Nita would say, "Well, do this or something."
yeah.
I couldn't recognize
Remember
and
her.
relate it
Wow.
to what she was saying. So
Well, and speaking of Ronald Reagan, he dealt with this very issue.
Yes, and what makes me feel so bad? When I started writing my book, can I show them what the book
Please.
looks like?
Yes.
It's called Boost Your Brain, and it's got testimonies in here, what to take, how much, where to get it. I just tried to put everything in here to help somebody. And I do have a wonderful testimony in here of a woman in her 80s who followed my system or protocol of what to take and how much and how often. And she completely recovered from the stage of not knowing her family, even at the funerals.
Wow.
She didn't know what was going on, didn't know anyone. She hadn't fed herself in years, couldn't dress herself. Her husband really, I believe, ruined his health trying
Right.
to take
I
her.
was a total caregiver.
Total caregiver, and
How quickly did that turnaround happen?
it was about a month.
Wow.
I think it was a day or two, maybe over a month or under a month.
Wow.
And she was dressing herself, feeding herself. And I tell you, she was answering questions I believe it was the 29th day, she was answering questions on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Oh, wow.
And people were
Is that my
just-
final answer? Yes, it is.
Yeah,
That's
and I mean,
funny.
everybody was that was taking care of her, they were just blown away. And when
Wow.
they called me to tell me, I told them I'd be glad to help them with her, and I felt sure she could be recovered if they would be faithful to give her everything in my book.
Right.
Every day I said, you can't play around with your brain. If you don't keep it full of this, you'll lose whatever you've gained.
Right.
So they were very faithful. And I said, now you got to call me every week so I'll know how she's doing. Every week they'd call me and say, hey, she's talking, or she picked up a glass and put it to her mouth and had a drink. And I said, you're kidding. Boy, that's that quick.
Things
And
we take for
second
granted.
week, something else she could do. I think she started feeding herself some. And then, before a month was over, I mean, she had started being able to button buttons
Wow.
and get dressed. It was just, it made me cry.
A miracle.
Yeah, it made me cry. I said, only God could do that.
Yeah. So how about this young man? How long did the process of using your protocol take?
My protocol, when I first started Bill on it, was in 2003 when I'd read the medical studies. He'd been on the Aricept for 4 years and just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
So I had to order the phosphatidylserine. No place in Bedford had it. Nobody ever even heard of it.